I've got all my notes right here, and boy, is it a day to hold on to these notes because we have so much going on. Obviously, there is a number of challenges across the United States on the election. President Trump's team is in full swing, and that's who I have here today. I have Jenna Ellis. She's representing President Trump in his lawsuits, along with Sidney Powell and Rudy Giuliani across the country. We'll talk a lot about that in detail. I want you to hear this clip from Jenna Ellis first.
If you are not willing to talk about the evidence that has been presented, then that is absolutely unacceptable for journalistic standards.
Well, I'm going to explain to you why Jenna Ellis is so right. We're going to go through it fine tooth and comb, okay? We're going to go through everything, and I'm going to explain to you why journalists really need to take this story seriously and how the mainstream media, mainly those media institutions that we trusted, have failed us. But first, I want to talk to you a little bit about an organization that I absolutely believe in, and that's AMAC. I wouldn't be talking to you about it if I didn't believe in them. Would you join an organization that stood against tax cuts for the middle-class Americans and small business owners? No way. No way. Would you join an organization like that? No. Then don't join AARP, guys. Join AMAC, the conservative alternative instead. Look, I stand with AMAC. I hope you will too. I encourage you to join AMAC today, and that's at amac.us/Carter. Don't forget to put /Carter in there. That's amac.us/Carter for AMAC. It's an organization that you can believe in. I do. Okay, I want to get back to what I think is probably the most important story in modern political history since I think I covered the Russia hoax, which we actually proved to the American public. It was 4 years of grueling work, congressional investigations, inspector general investigations, Department of Justice investigations. And unfortunately, nobody has been held accountable, but we did get the truth out to the American people. You were able to see it for yourself, not only in tangible evidence like text messages, emails, documents, by the way, firing of almost every senior official at the FBI. But we also saw that John Brennan recently, even more information that's come out, that he briefed President Obama on many of the things that I discussed. Particularly, he briefed President Obama on the fact that Hillary Clinton had basically allegedly approved of an operation against the Trump campaign and against President Donald Trump himself to try to connect him to Russia, even though the information was completely bogus. Now, that information was completely bogus, yet the media jumped on it. And in fact, some of them actually won Pulitzers for their work, which we now know was complete lies. So they won Pulitzers based on lies. They tried to accuse President Trump of being the Manchurian candidate, that he was somehow connected to Russia. They came up with these salacious, horrible stories, in fact, perpetrated by people like former FBI Director James Comey and the former head of the DNI, James Clapper. Now the media doesn't want to look at the truth. And that's about this election. And it's going to be really tough for American people to understand this, right? Which is the reason why Rudy Giuliani, Jenna Ellis, Sidney Powell, Victoria Tunsing, and Joe were all today before the American public at the RNC holding a press conference and talking directly to the media and saying, listen, we have affidavits, we have information, we have evidence that must be investigated, that there was a good chance, not only a good chance, a very high probability that there was fraud perpetrated on the American people in the general election. And it's our duty as Americans to investigate that. Now, we are so divided as a nation. It's crazy. I don't even know where to start. That we're so divided that I have actually spoken to people who have told me that they don't care if there was fraud, that they don't like and they hate President Trump, and they could care less. And then, of course, I think the majority of us are saying, no, wait a minute, no matter what, even if I'm a Democrat, whether I'm a Democrat or Republican, there cannot be fraud in U.S. elections. Otherwise, we might as well throw in the towel. Otherwise, who are we? We stand for nothing? Are we going to accept this? No, we can't accept this. But when you have a media that is purposefully ignoring the facts, not reporting the truth, and instead gaslighting the American public and making anybody who questions anything with regard to President Trump and what happened in this election, just like they did with the Russia hoax, which is why I brought that up, who questions anything at that point in time, they're told that they are nothing more than conspiracy theorists. Go look, watch CNN, turn it on right now. You're probably at home in your kitchen. You're probably getting your kids ready for school. I don't know when you're going to watch this. It might be late at night. You might be washing the dishes. I just say turn on CNN, turn on MSNBC, look at the news. Look at what they're saying about the Trump team, about the Trump administration, about the Trump campaign, and about what happened in this general election. Either they're completely lying to you, they're gaslighting the whole situation, they're ignoring it completely, they're not reporting it. There are very few news outlets that are going to be willing to tell you the truth. Instead, they'll pick on things like Rudy Giuliani. And, I have to talk about it because he looked like he had a little bit of hair dye coming down the side of his face during the interview that they were having and during this press conference. So, of course, everybody picked up on that. And all the people who hated him basically went ahead and just made that the whole Twitter reporting. I mean, everything about Rudy Giuliani's hair dye. Okay, granted, is a little bit funny, but they completely tried to distract the viewer from what was actually being reported, that there are solid affidavits by American citizens, some of whom they said, but they weren't completely sure, who may be Democrats because they're in Detroit area. They're, people that were working the election in Detroit, who basically, they're right there. You can see them. You can look them up because these are all public now. Not every single one of them, but the ones that they were talking about, they have 8 to 10 affidavits that are actually public now that you can look at. They have hundreds more, but they aren't public. And mainly that's to protect the people that sign these affidavits. They're afraid they're going to lose their jobs. Can you believe that? In America, we're afraid we're going to lose our jobs. We're afraid that if we say, I voted for President Trump, that we're going to be ostracized or put on some kind of crazy list like I talked about on the last podcast. That's not okay. That's not American. That's like way beyond America. That's like Banana Republic or dictatorships like in Venezuela. I mean, this isn't what we're supposed to do to one another. That's why I have Jenna Ellis on the show with me today. And I think it's important that we hear from her. We hear from her what the Trump campaign has, what type of lawsuits they're going to be filing, how these lawsuits are going to impact us. Will there be election reform? And by the way, I think the biggest question of all, the biggest question that I have right now is whether or not there's going to be enough time to prove what's happening in, what they say needs to happen in the courts. Is there going to be enough time to prove that in order to affect the outcome of the election? Meaning, look, let's be frank. Let's be straight here, right? The mainstream media has already called the election. We've got people around the world calling and congratulating President-elect Joe Biden and telling him congratulations and doing their formalities. The Trump campaign and President Trump himself have said they believe that they can turn this around. I don't know. We don't know that. What we do know is that they are fighting tooth and nail to ensure that every legitimate vote counts. And they say that once all these legitimate votes are counted and tallied, that it will turn the election around and a landslide win by President Donald Trump. Before we get to Jenna Ellis, I have some advice for her. She needs to take Super Beets, guys. So do you. I have them right here. See this? Super Beets. They are amazing. They actually, I know I've talked about this a lot. They actually taste like Starbucks. They are delicious. They are delicious. And not only are they delicious, but they are also good for you. And they're good for every member of your family. I mean, anybody, even your children can take it. Your husband can take it. Your dog can probably eat it. No, don't give it to your dog. Just to the people in your family. I know it because I take it every single day and it gives me amazing energy. It makes me feel good. And they not only do they have Super Beets soft chews right here, but you can also get, and in the time of COVID, this is a must, your vitamin D3 chews. These are vitamin D3 chews. So do what I did and support your heart health with the delicious Super Beet chews today. Get your Super Beet chews, and that is getsuperbeets.com/Carter. Remember this, getsuperbeets.com/Carter. Hi, Jenna. Thank you so much for being a part of the Sara Carter Show. I know you're extremely busy today. I want to jump right into this. First of all, oh, you're welcome. I mean, this has been a big day. It was, we were watching, the press conference was incredible. You came out there, you spoke, Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell, laying out what I believe was a significant amount of possible evidence of fraud, allegations of fraud, affidavits that actually alluded to the fraud that was taking place across the United States. But what I want to ask you here right now,
it didn't just allude to it. That is evidence. I mean, these are sworn statements from people who actually saw this. This is direct eyewitness testimony, basically, that they put into written format. And so what we're seeing, Sarah, is exactly what I predicted, which is that the mainstream media is still saying, where's your evidence? Oh, they didn't present enough. Oh, they had one affidavit, big deal. This isn't going to be election changing. Well, what everyone needs to understand is exactly what I said in the press conference. This is just an opening statement that says this is what our evidence will show. And we provided samples of that to show we're not just, I mean, we're good lawyers. We're not just going to be making this up. And so we are providing everyone with a roadmap. And this was not litigating in the court of public opinion. We are not going to go through every single piece of evidence that we have. And we're already getting questions from all of the news networks saying, well, give us everything you have. Well, no, we're not going to try this in the court of public opinion. We're going to try this in a court of law. And so we are giving you what we have. We are showing you samples of what we have. But of course, we want to make sure to protect the identity and, of course, the safety of all of the witnesses that have come forward. But this is all about election official fraud. And we have sufficient in these 6 states to show that this election was absolutely changed to declare Biden the president outside of our constitutional process.
Well, thank you so much for correcting me, because you're right. Those affidavits are signed by witnesses under perjury, right?
Yes.
And so this is very serious. These are very serious accusations. And they also allude to the integrity of our entire system, right?
Absolutely.
But there's a lot of people in the media that are not even bothering to look at the evidence, Jenna. They're out there saying right now on CNN, I've heard it on Fox News, I've heard it on MSNBC, that your team did not present the evidence that was sufficient, that they've already dismissed a lot of this as hearsay, that a lot of this evidence has been already disproven. I would like you to respond to that, because I think this is extraordinarily important. And I'll explain that when I talk a little bit about how this seems like so Orwellian, that the media is actually trying to change the narrative without even bothering to investigate what you've all presented to them.
Yeah, well, you know what's funny about all of those terms that they're using, like hearsay and evidence and proof and disproven? Well, I would like to know, what court case are they referring to? Where has this actually been proven and tried when you have a fact finder like a jury or a judge at a hearing on the merits? When they're saying, oh, this has been disproven or debunked because the fake news media is the ones that are theoretically debunking that. Well, I'm sorry, they don't have an opinion. They are not the fact finders here that ultimately determine the outcome of this case. And so when they're saying and using those legal terms, the media is not a court of law. The media, nobody that I've seen as a contributor or an anchor has recently given up their position and joined the federal bench of the Middle District of Pennsylvania or Michigan or anywhere else that we're litigating. Their opinion doesn't matter. And the purpose of our press conference, which I think we accomplished really, really well today, is to show that the fake news media will not give this evidence that we have a fair and credible view to the American people. What they should be doing as journalists is simply saying, listen, this is what they say the evidence shows. Here's what they presented. The American people need to decide and explain the process. Have attorneys who are commentators to explain what the process is, the difference between asking for a temporary restraining order not to certify election results versus a full hearing where you have live witnesses, testimonies. You have these people who are coming in who have their sworn affidavits explaining what they saw. That all hasn't happened yet. And so for all of these media ridiculous hacks that are somehow claiming that this has been disproven, you're using a legal term outside of a court, and it doesn't apply here.
Well, I got to tell you, I've spoken to people in Georgia, witnesses, GOP observers, people that, just everyday Americans doing their part to be a part of the election. And what they told me stunned me. I mean, I spoke to one lady, Marcy McCarthy, on the record, and she was talking about being kept from even visually seeing what was going on with the ballots. They were threatened. I talked to Ben Hendrick, where he said that they were being told they had to back up. They couldn't get near them. They couldn't read anything. They didn't even understand what was being counted. They couldn't even see what the ballots were. They were coming out of these bins. They saw some ballots that were all for Joe Biden that appeared to be a different color than the rest of the ballots that were coming in. When they asked questions about it, they were told to be quiet or they would be thrown out. So there's a lot of...
Imagine this. I mean, this is happening in America. And why isn't the mainstream media concerned about this? Why aren't they interviewing some of these people who have posted these?
Why do you think, Jenna?
In Detroit, where you have the cardboard that's being put up there. Yeah, of course, because they're not interested in this. They are not interested in election integrity. They're only interested in being complicit to put Joe Biden into the Oval Office when he has not earned that through the American constitutional process.
Is this about their hate for President Trump? Because there is no other way to explain the behavior of the United States media. I've seen this since 2016. I was stunned when they refused to investigate the Russia hoax, when we saw mountains of evidence that showed that Joe Biden and President Obama, along with people in the Obama administration, were setting up President Trump and his administration, his campaign prior to his election. We saw all of this, but the media refused to do anything about this.
They called President Trump crazy, and they said, he's just making this up, and they laughed at him and poked fun in his tweets, and he was proven right. And guess what? They're doing the exact same thing now. And I think it goes deeper than just a hatred of President Trump. It is all about tearing down our American system, because as I said today, we are a nation of rules. We are a constitutional republic. We are not a nation of rulers. And they want to help the elite class who wants to select the president outside of our constitutionally protected system. And they are willing to hide the truth from the American people, and they're willing to spin this. And so they have completely just had their hatred for President Trump is only because he wants to protect our American system. And so they are complicit in this entire scandal.
Jenna, this is the question that everyone keeps asking me all throughout Twitter, every time that I'm online, is there enough time to prove this before there's a transition of power? I think a lot of people are concerned that if this election was stolen, as you have presented, as the facts have been presented by Sidney Powell, by Rudy Giuliani, and by you, will there be enough time for the president to actually be able to present his case and overturn this election from the media? Because the media has already claimed Joe Biden to be president-elect.
Yeah, well, let's remember back in 2000, it took 37 days from conclusion of that process. And that went all the way up to the Supreme Court in Bush v. Gore. And that's why we have election day, the first Tuesday in November. And then you have 2 weeks generally for states to certify. Then you actually have the selection of delegates on December 8th. And then the delegates to the Electoral College actually don't vote until December 14th. And then we don't have the president sworn in for the next term until January 20th of 2021. That's a very, very, very tight time frame for all of this litigation, because it's not just one issue like it was in Florida. But we absolutely have enough time. We just need to make sure that we get our opportunity in our day in court without these states rushing to certify. So we have
What can happen? What can happen though? What can happen to stop this? Can there be an extended deadline? Could courts say what could the courts actually do to change this?
So what we have done over the last 2 weeks in the states that we've identified where there is corruption and there is this elected official fraud, we have asked for temporary restraining orders or permanent injunctions that the court will step in and say, no, you can't certify false results. And if that ultimately then comes before the court for an appropriate remedy, which either is to cast aside all of the ballots that are corrupt, that were counted in secret, or have any other legal problem with them. And if that is significant enough to the outcome of that state, then it's irredeemably compromised. And at that point, the Constitution provides a mechanism for corruption to make sure that the people are not disenfranchised. And it goes to the state legislature. They always select the delegates. Now, most states do that based on the popular vote within the state, but the state legislatures ultimately have the call on who they select as their delegates. And if no one gets to 270 at the end of this process, then so if any of the states are thrown out, or however the court determines this remedy, then it goes to the U.S. House of Representatives, who were voted on by the people. That's our voice. So we are not disenfranchised through them. They are actually our voice, and they have determined a presidential election in the past. And that's how this process works. So we have multiple ways here. It's not about disenfranchising anyone. And all of the people who are claiming this need to read American history. It's actually not that long. We've only, had about 250 years of American history. Look at the presidential elections. Look at what happened in 2000. Look at what even happened in 1806. I mean, look at all of the history of presidential elections, and you'll find exactly what happened and why the Constitution is a beautiful thing.
I was just going to go there before I let you go, because I know you have to run. Have we ever seen anything like this in U.S. history? Anything like what we're seeing right now?
Oh, of course. I mean, and certainly there have been contested elections. And like I said, with Bush v. Gore, the one thing, and because that was the most recent in 2000,
right,
the one thing that people have to remember about that, not only that
that was one state, though, one state
in just
Florida,
3 counties, but that still took 37 days. But what people have to remember is that went all the way up through the state court level, and the Florida Supreme Court actually did not apply the law to the facts correctly. And so when the Supreme Court got a hold of it, they overturned the lower court cases. So all these people saying, oh, Team Trump has lost, they've lost, and they're laughing, they don't know their history. Look at the progression of cases in Bush v. Gore. And we believe that we have, a very similar situation, in the sense that we have to litigate this because there are election integrity issues that go to the heart of this election. We cannot certify results as valid until these questions of fact are shown in court and we have the opportunity to apply the constitutional protections.
Absolutely, Jenna. I mean, this is not about the media. The media is not designated the supreme ultimate authority over elections in the United States of America. And you're right. All of this does have to go to the courts. And I say the journalists have failed our nation and really failed democracy, because they need to be investigating these claims instead of whitewashing and gaslighting the American public. They need to be investigating this. And I think a lot of people need to take a hard look at what they're watching on television and question themselves. Why don't they just want to look at it and maybe stop watching some of these news outlets altogether?
Absolutely. Well, you can always come over to Team Trump or the Sarah Carter Show. So thanks.
That's right. That's right. Thank you so much, Jenna. Thank you for being a part of the show.
Thanks so much, Sarah.
Before I go any further, I want to talk to you about something that means a lot to me. I have an adopted cat named Barry, and he's a great part of our family. He's super funny. I know I've talked about him before. He does a lot of hunting outside. And the reason I bring this up is because I want to share some good news with you. It's Arm & Hammer's Perfectly Imperfect campaign. And this is a campaign that they launched to help animals in shelters. This is about cat adoptions. So the Perfectly Imperfect campaign is to help lovable but overlooked shelter cats find caring and forever homes. That's right, forever homes, you guys. Everyone knows the benefits of adopting a cat, and these cats are in particular need of our love, attention, and our support. From now until November 30th, shelters and cat lovers can nominate a perfectly imperfect feline friend. Maybe I should nominate Barry on felinegenerousstories.com. It's a fun way to help the cats find caring pet parents through shelters. 3 shelters will actually win $10,000 each. Plus, Arm & Hammer is awarding $100 worth of litter to the first 100 eligible entrants. Remember that. The first 100 eligible entrants will win $100 worth of litter. Visit felinegenerousstories.com for official rules and to learn more. That's felinegenerousstories.com for official rules and to learn more. Okay. So now that we've already talked about that and we've talked about my lovely cat Barry, I want to talk about something that is even more important than anything else right now, and that is our election, and that is our nation. So what we have been going through is I know, gut-wrenching and tough. I've talked to friends about this. So many of my friends, are wondering, like, is there any hope left? They voted for President Trump. They believe in this administration. They believe in what this administration started. They believe in deregulation, right? Of what we saw under the Obama administration, the pressure that we saw in small businesses in America, our school systems being able to have school choice. That's pretty much gone now under a Biden-Harris administration. We're not going to see a lot of the same policies in place in the United States that we actually saw under President Trump. What does that mean for our country? And what if they throw out the Iran deal, right? How does that change the structure of the Middle East? How does that change the geopolitical situation for our allies like Israel, Saudi Arabia, the Persian Gulf? What happens in Afghanistan? I mean, we're drawing down troop forces there, but we're not going to be out completely. We're supposed to be drawing down to around 2,400 troops. What does that mean to us and our families? What does it mean with immigration? We're going to see a completely new platform on immigration. What does a Biden-Harris administration actually look like? It's a completely different political, ideological, geopolitical structure. And especially for us, our everyday folks. I mean, everything will change for us. And especially now with COVID, we're all under a lot of strain. And so when I think about this and I think about what we've all been through, and I think about the future for my children, I'm worried. And what if what Sidney Powell, Jenna Ellis, Rudy Giuliani, what if what they are saying is true? What if this election was stolen? I mean, it's hard for me to believe that. This is the United States of America, but we can't dismiss the facts, folks. We can't dismiss the fact that there are people that signed affidavits. There are hundreds of affidavits that they have in their hands that said that they were forced to, backdate ballots, that they were signing multiple votes, that they allowed people to vote multiple times, that they were actually ordered to do these things in Michigan, in Georgia, Pennsylvania. We should at least know the truth. I want to play a clip here. This is Sidney Powell from the press conference with Rudy Giuliani and Jenna Ellis.
This is stunning, heartbreaking, infuriating, and the most unpatriotic acts I can even imagine for people in this country to have participated in any way, shape, or form. And I want the American public to know right now that we will not be intimidated. American patriots are fed up with the corruption from the local level to the highest level of our government, and we are going to take this country back. We are not going to be intimidated. We are not going to back down. We are going to clean this mess up now. President Trump won by a landslide. We are going to prove it. And we are going to reclaim the United States of America for the people who vote for freedom.
She's right. She's not going to be intimidated. Neither is Jenna Ellis. Neither is Rudy Giuliani. I'm not going to be intimidated. There's a lot of people out there that are willing to stand up for the truth. They are real patriots. Look, regardless of what you think, regardless of whether or not they're going to be able to prove all of this in a court of law in a timely manner to affect the outcome of this election, I don't think that's even the point. I think the point is that they're exposing what is a true corruption inside our system, inside the United States of America, a corruption that is so pervasive that it has basically taken over our bureaucracy. That everywhere I look in Washington, D.C., when I walk through this swamp, I know that the State Department has been infected. I know that the FBI has been infected. I know that the CIA has been infected. The Director of National Intelligence, his offices have been infected. There is something so wrong and so perverse about this. But let me tell you, it was exposed. It was exposed because of President Donald Trump. It was exposed because of the American people who voted for President Donald Trump. And remember this, don't be afraid. I know there's a lot of people out there that are telling you, don't say anything. Don't say that you supported Trump. Don't say that you cared about Trump's policies. Pretend like you never voted for him. Move on. Don't say anything because you're going to get fired, because you're going to get ostracized, because you're going to lose friends. I lost friends. They just disappeared out of my life. They were never my real friends. They never really cared for me. I would have never done that to them. Don't be afraid to stand up for what you believe in, because there were 73 million Americans that voted in this election cycle for President Donald Trump. There are 73 million people that believe in a free America, in a diverse America, but in America that puts America first. And that is actually okay. And that benefits the rest of the world. The 73 million of us are not going anywhere. So don't let this mainstream media and these folks intimidate you or make you feel small. Stand up and fight. That's what Sidney Powell's doing. That's what Jenna Ellis is doing. That's what the people around President Trump are doing. That is what President Donald Trump himself is doing. There will be a peaceful transition of power if there needs to be a peaceful transition of power. But don't be afraid to believe in what you believe in, and don't be afraid to speak out. This has been the Sara Carter Show. Thank you so much for being a part of it. You mean so much to me. I every time I'm here, I want to come back. I hope I can make this I could do this 5 times a week and be with you. Thanks again. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter at Sara Carter DC, on Parler, which I suggest please go to Parler, because we can have free and open discussions there without censorship, at Sara Carter Official. And remember to give us a 5-star rating wherever you listen to your podcast, whether that's Spotify or iTunes or wherever you listen to it. And please leave us a review. We read all your reviews. I love reading them. I think they're great. And I take to heart anything critical you have to say, and I try to make those changes. Thank you for being a part of the show. Remember, here at the Sara Carter Show, we're taking the story back.